Welcome to Maritime with Ezinne. My name is Ezinne Azuna. We'll be bringing you a new entrant in the maritime industry.
We are getting people to realize that maritime does not start and end with the seas.
We'll be looking at the very important transport document.
85% of the Earth's surface is water.
ABC of shipping is the first port of call because that gives you the whole knowledge of what to see.
Nothing done by man is perfect. You can't give 100% where goods are cleared out of customs controls.
The key job of customs anywhere in the world is trade facilitation, not revenue drive.
Hello and welcome to Maritime with Ezinne. I'm your host, Ezinne Azuna, and this is still Maritime TV. Today on the show, we'll be looking at the dislodgement of littoral communities, and it's an honor for us to have in our studio a veteran in the transport industry, the person of Professor Charles Asenime. Did I get that right, sir?
You got it right. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Professor Charles is of the School of Transport and Logistics, Lagos State University. You're welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
It's a privilege. Let me start by saying a Happy New Year to you. This is the first time we're saying this here, isn't it?
The first time we've seen this, although we spoke on phone for that. Happy New Year to you.
So today, let's talk about littoral communities, the dislodgement of littoral communities. You know, especially Lagos, where we reside, we find that Morocco has gone. We had a lot of issues around that. We also find that Takwa Bay went a few years back. Now, we had the privilege of going to some of these islands, especially around the Lagos ports, you know, and they live in fear that government would soon arrive there and evict them. Yeah. So let's even put a background to it. How did they emerge? Because there's that argument. How did they emerge? Let me just not let you preempt your answer.
Well, people have been traveling all over the world ever since the Earth started. Littoral communities, there was nobody actually born there. People just settled there from different parts of the hinterland. And then they started growing, families started growing. If you look at the way the nuclear family grew, people came in from different parts of the world or different parts of the place and settled there. And they went into fishing. So as they give birth to children, they learn their trade and keeps expanding. So you can call those the aborigines because they've been there for a long while. So that's how most of the littoral communities started, and they kept migrating from place to place. Like if you can find that some communities, you can find Ijaws around most of the coastal areas, you know, because they just kept migrating, they keep expanding their trade to other areas. So that's how they emerge all over the world. So it's not peculiar to Nigeria at all.
Since it's a natural occurrence, one would wonder at what point would it now be necessary for any government to check the progress of or the progression of this group of people? You know, at what point would it be absolutely necessary? Can we say rightly that, for example, littoral communities have been dislodged in Lagos were a threat either to, maybe even to the port industry? I don't know.
Well, communities can become a threat. It depends on what they do. Okay. The littoral communities, let's just look at the country, not just Lagos. You look at the case of, do I pick an example?
Yes, please.
Like the Morocco example.
Okay.
Morocco, they've always been there quite a long time before the whites came into to colonize the country. They've been there. Then it was made up of about 30 communities. Then what now expanded the place was that when that the road between Victoria Island or the piece of Victoria Island was truly an island.
Yeah.
Later they put this
extension.
They dredged and filled it up. Is it because they wanted to kill mosquitoes or those kind of things so that they can link it up to Lekki area? So that's actually expanded the place, and people started coming in and occupied those areas. But it's not as if the people were not living there before. I don't want to go into all those because there are a lot of sensitivities attached to it. But when government decide, okay, let us evict, especially what you see around the port area, because it's outside the port area, the government want to evict. If their stay or their activities becomes a threat to shipping routes or to shipping lines, then they may have to go. And they have to go. They have to go for the interest or the bigger interest of the society, not because government just want to chase them. They have a right to be there if they are not a threat to the larger community. Like I think you mentioned Takwa Bay. Takwa Bay expanded after the Liberian War or during the Liberian War. Many of the refugees that came into Lagos went to Takwa Bay because you see shanties. It's cheap to get housing there. The same thing happened to in Morocco area. People came in from different parts of the country and settled in Morocco area because houses were cheap. You could buy land very cheap. But later on, the government, in their own wisdom, I don't want to go into that because there are a lot of things attached to it, decided to evict them and they left. But there's a process of eviction.
Okay, I was coming to that.
Okay,
I was coming to the process of eviction because I'm sure, like you mentioned earlier, displacement is not peculiar to us in Nigeria.
No, it's not peculiar to
and
Nigeria
so
at all.
if it happens, there are conventions, there are laws that clearly state how this should be done.
Yeah.
So let's hear some of that.
Well, if you look at what the UN says about what we call forced eviction now, you ask them to leave because nobody wants to leave any place they're attached to. There's this sentiment attached to lands. You're from a place, you say, this is my ancestral land. So nobody wants to leave because if you leave, it will worry your economic activity. You may not be able to do certain things you used to do before. So the UN has a definition for forced eviction. Now I just read from what they have. They say the rights of his forced eviction is the permanent or temporary removal against their will of individuals, families, or people against their will, because it is always against their will. But most times, why the government, there's a process, the process of eviction. Once you are evicting people from a place, you must make alternatives for them. So most times we don't.
And that's where we falter.
That's where we falter because the UN convention, the UN makes provision for that. You must make that decision for them.
Coming there. When government or when people are dislodged without alternative, they can seek redress.
Of course, they can seek redress.
International court.
They can go to anywhere they can be listened to. They can go to international court, or first you start from the local courts. It is when you feel that you're not getting justice from the local court that you can go up to the international court, or even during the time of eviction, you can make appeals to the United Nations who are being removed from our ancestral land. That will now prompt them to, okay, what is happening to Nigeria government? I know of a particular case. This is not the littoral case now. The Oshodi case when the Lagos State government decided to remove those who trade along the, the railway line. There was this, they have removed the markets, but Lagos State government said, well, you've not removed any markets. The only market in Oshodi is the Musafejo market, I hope I'm pronouncing it properly. So they asked them to leave, and they left. And the World Bank who came to inspect, is it really true that there was a market removed here? They didn't see any market. All you just have to do is let us clear the rights of way for the rail and let us have roads. If you go to Oshodi now, I was trapped there for about an hour. People trade on the road, that is inside, not on the main road right now. And they begin to make incursions on the road. So sometimes when government asks the littoral communities to move, it's for the general good of the public. Okay,
Prof, please, let's just hold that thought. We need to go on a break,
and
we'll be right back. So thank you, viewers, for staying tuned. We'll be right back after this short break.
Sometimes it's difficult for government to control certain things, especially if they feel that their staying there is a threat to shipping. They can ask them to leave.
Welcome back to Maritime with Ezinne. Still Maritime TV, and we've been talking to Professor Charles Asenime. We've been speaking about the dislodgement of littoral communities, and before we went on a break, Prof, you mentioned that people who are displaced forcefully can
Yeah.
actually seek redress.
Exactly.
You know, are there laws and conventions that also back this up, or such
Definitely.
engagement of?
The United Nations human rights laws. There are a lot of articles in that declaration that protects people against such evictions and on such things. For instance, if you look at the article 031, talks about the right to life, your right to liberty, security of persons.
But that's almost like the same thing we have with our own human rights.
It's the same thing. So it's not as if there's anything new, but you can pick your argument
exactly your case now.
from that place now. Because if you evict people, you expose them to insecurity.
Now, is it possible for people to actually halt such evictions? You know, so you know that there is a move being made to evict your community,
Yes.
and you think you're not in any way causing any nuisance. Is it possible for such communities to go to court?
Of course.
To stop?
Of course. That is if you have a government that is listening. It's possible. You can go to court to seek redress. We don't want to be moved. Then let government prove their case. Then it's not left for the case to decide whether they have to be evicted or not. But if it's a government that does not listen, they'll just go ahead and evict. And like I said, most times when government do it, I'm not speaking for government now, when government do evict, it's most of the time for the common good of the people. I can give you an example. If a community, a settlement rises suddenly along the shipping channel, like what we have close to Papa, some people were asked to leave. Now you find that people coming from different parts of the country to live there, we don't have law. They live their own kind of life. They want to come out to.
We don't have law. Which kind of?
We don't have. There are no laws there.
Within those
spaces.
Yeah,
because you cannot claim that. It's as if you're not even in the country.
But they vote.
We'll get to that. They just live their own kind of life. So sometimes it's difficult for government to control certain things, especially if they feel that their staying there is a threat to shipping. They can ask them to leave. Now, when it comes to voting, it goes beyond just what you see. They allow them to vote because they feel it's their right to vote. It's their right to vote in who they want to see, but it's not their right to live there. That is where the irony comes in. You say it's their right to vote. And if it's their right to vote, then they have a right to stay there.
And we have some people, notable people in government, donate hospitals, donate schools. You know, the community we visited, you know, they had people donate hospitals, schools, you know, to them. But the point we just said to them, oh, okay, we want to do a focus on you so that life could be better. They shied away from it because of government attention and how government has dealt with other communities.
Yeah. They have to shy away because once they get into the limelight, they may ask them to. They will start looking at such places. Now there are a lot of places that maybe
we might turn it to free trade zone.
Yeah, well, they will turn to, and if you turn to a free trade zone, then you should give them the right to own certain things in the free trade zone, to participate in the free trade zone, but not just to pursue them entirely and just take complete control. So that's where the problem is.
That's another twist to it.
Yes, there is. That's a big twist to it, because if you are going to turn into a free trade zone, then they have a right to own certain things there. If you are going to take over their land, resettle them. Like the native Indians of America, if I can use the word native, or the Aborigine Indians of America, we learned that sometimes when they don't even pay taxes or they reduce their taxes, they have right to certain things because that is their land. And these people came and they took over their land. So if you are going to evict them or resettle them, they should have right to certain things that the free trade zone is going to. For instance, jobs. I think there's this law that says if you're going to have something doing in the community, you should be able to give the locals about 40% of this on skilled labor. But not just asking them to go entirely without compensation. They don't even know where they go, because if you ask them to leave, you open them to insecurity. And what are the consequences of forced eviction? It causes, there are some areas become more congested. Like when they asked those in Makoko to go, what happened to Bariga? Bariga became congested. Ikorodu became congested. Then destitution, prostitution, and criminality. You see people, you find that most of the time they kidnap people, they take them to uncompleted buildings because those areas are empty. If the place is occupied, nobody will be there. Nobody will take anybody there for this. So These are the things that comes with eviction. So before you begin to evict, you ensure that is one of the primary rules of the process of eviction with United Nations. You must provide an alternative.
Now, we have a bias for the maritime industry, and we're talking about these communities around the ports industry. Armed robbery at sea, as well as piracy, have been a very serious issue of concern, and it's almost like such people or such communities are labeled as being the ones who accommodate these criminals when they, before they operate from those locations. Now, other states, other countries have what we call coast guards, and some of them are drawn from these communities. We've had quite a number of people who think that littoral communities can be coast guards. Can be engaged because they know the people and they'll be able to do. Do you agree?
Well, to an extent, yes, I agree. Because sometimes when it takes somebody who knows the pattern of stealing to actually catch a thief in that process. So if you bring in the people, like when the Niger Delta, when they say, okay, they recruited those from the Niger Delta to watch over the pipelines, those vandalism stopped because they know those who can do it and they can stop them. So in that same vein, if you bring in the people from the community, so it's okay, form the Coast Guard. It can work too, but although it has its own limits, because there can be some compromises because they are from the same place and there may be some sentiments. It has its own limit, but it works. It works. So, but these things, it's only in Nigeria that we see littoral communities as threats. It's actually supposed to be a tourist place.
Now, I was coming to that.
Let us hear it.
I was coming to that because, you begin to wonder, is the only thing, is it that dislodgement is the only thing we can do, for these littoral communities? If we give them development, if we give them, things, ability to have maybe fishing communities amongst them, other areas of maritime, or marine tourism, wouldn't that be better?
Of course, it would be better. When you have a community like that, how do we do renewal? So that they can have something that can attract people and boost the economy of such places. If the economy of such places increases, the criminality will reduce. But if you just ask them to go, like there are a lot of places, if you go to the Port Novo Creek, a lot of settlements there that can serve as tourist areas, So government can develop such places. And who are the first people that will gain from such things? The local people. So rather than just ask everybody, go, let us see how we can use that same place to attract more people and let the locals get something doing. So it can boost tourism actually.
So do we have countries where, such tourist centers, islands around?
Of course, there are many. Have you been to, there's a place, I think it's Jore in Netherlands. They actually live on water. If you go to Venice, they live on water. Venice. So the Venice is what we know, what the whole world, but there are a lot of communities that live on water. Just like Makoko.
Or is it like what they wanted to create at Calabar, where the government wanted to...
The Tinapa, something.
Calavegas,
Calavegas to create something.
Although that was faulted because they were almost encroaching. In fact, they had encroached on the port corridor.
The port corridor. Well, it will not, for such community, it's a deliberate thing. If you've been to Milton Keynes, it's outside London. It was created, demarcated, and people live there, and it's a very big and beautiful city, just like you're in London. So if you want to create such, there must be a deliberate effort on the part of government and the people to join hands to make it livable, to make it attractive.
So perhaps our sea blindness is what has stalled such development.
Sea blindness, that I say, when I say it's kind of laziness, sea blindness. I like that, sea blindness. People just get blind. They don't see. They don't see resources. Yeah, they don't see. They don't see the resources they can get from the sea. But if you see the resources, if you're not blind, you will see what you can get from there. Then also the locals, those who live there, they should see beyond waiting for government all the time. Because it's always a problem. Government has not done this for us, and it's true. But they can see beyond that and say, okay, how do we attract people to our communities? You know, if I come as a tourist, I stay in your community, I stay in a hotel, will I be safe? Will I wake up tomorrow morning and my phones, my gadgets are all intact without somebody coming in to pick them up? I'm not labeling them thieves, but they can make such efforts to ensure that their communities are safe for people to come. Then there should be things that people want to see in those communities. We went to Cape Coast, Ghana. There's a castle there that you can visit. The town is peaceful. So something attracted us all the way from Accra, from Nigeria to Accra first for a field walk. Then later we went to Cape Coast. The place is peaceful, and everybody in the community is ready to, this is what they want to sell something. So you're from Nigeria, we can sell this to you. So you go back home with something that this is what I got from Cape Coast. So those communities also owe it a duty to themselves to ensure that their communities are safe and people can get attracted to live or to just, come there temporarily, look at what they have, enjoy themselves and go. But in a situation whereby you are a visitor, everybody looking at you with hostile eyes, what are they come to do? Is there a government person? Are they come to take our land? And the reason why they do that too is not far-fetched because of how government has treated them in the past. They just come, use them, and leave them. You vote, and that's the end of it. Yeah. But if they vote, you should look to take something back to the community. I'm voting for you because I'm a Nigerian. Yeah. I'm voting for you. You recognize my vote because you know that this place exists. And they're actually in the map. They are there. So if you don't want them, clean them away from the map and get them out of the place. But as long as they're in the map and they can vote, then it is their right to demand certain things from government. And the government owes them that welfare package to give them something to make them live. Because if they can live comfortably there, they will not start attacking boats, attacking ships or doing, because most of them are fishermen. They live off the river. So make it okay for them to live there. So that's just what is missing. Like you said, this river blindness or sea blindness.
No, river blindness is sickness.
This one is sea blindness.
Sea blindness is another type of sickness.
It's another kind of sickness. We agree.
All right. Thank you very much for being with us today on this show. It's been an honor talking with you. And I do hope that when we call on you some other time, you'll be here. Yeah, our time is fast spent, so this is all we can take.
If the roads are free.
The roads will be free. And you would go by the water anyway.
Well, my car cannot swim.
We have ferries.
Thank you very much. I will try that.
Thank you for joining us today on this show. We hope you had a lot to learn. Until we come your way again next time, please stay blessed. I remain your host, Ezinne. Thank you.